Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'm going to try to demonstrate a trade example here for you. You can see we had this trend line. This was the first. We had a little break here, but I don't think that was enough to end this trend. And so this was the first major break of the trend line, and then we had a little reversal type bar right here. So I put my order one tick above that, so I got filled. I'm looking for prices to come back and make a retest here of the high. And I'm going to put my stop. I'm going to give it 2 ticks below my signal bar here, simply because a lot of times you'll get stopped out on 1 tick on just on noise alone. So I like to give it 2 points is our our maximum on our stop, but usually you just want to be at least below your signal bar. So we'll let this play out, see what happens. I'm looking to scalp out 2 of my contracts at the before we get to the high at 1 point, and then I'm going to save me a runner just in case prices go higher. And normally I may trade more contracts than this, but I'm trying to give examples of what a smaller trader might do, and so I went in with 3 contracts here, and we'll see what happens. And like always, if this thing starts getting too long, I may pause it in the middle, see what happens. But the trade did get triggered, and we'll see what happens. But we really, here was our double bottom from yesterday's, and really what we had was, just going to put this down here and show you. Oop. But that was our double bottom from yesterday, and you see what we had was we just basically had a failed break lower below that line, and then a reversal. So, and then the highs were mostly, just copy this line and move it up, and so your highs were right along here yesterday. And that's pretty much what we're fighting right now, and that's the reason we got some resistance right there, because that was the highs of yesterday. So, but I'm expecting prices. This was the first real break of the trend line, so I'm expecting prices to come test this high again, and that's why I went long here. And here we go. We got prices moving in our direction. And we may struggle to get above this previous spot here, but I think we should be able to, hoping we should be able to scalp out of this with our 4 ticks, and if it goes higher, we'll be prepared. And while we're waiting for this to play out, I'll show you something else here. I had somebody contact me today. I believe this is where they didn't send me a copy of their chart, but they gave me the time and the price that they went short, and I believe they got trapped right in this area right here, trying to go short. And we'll just talk about that for a second while we're waiting on this trade to play out. But if you get a trend line down through here, this was basically your trend line, and you see we had a major break right here, and then a couple of legs down to a new low, but we also had this failed break below this double bottom. So that's a reversal type pattern, and you can see we've been trending up ever since. So that was a good reason not to be thinking short right here with that strong support right there, because there's not much room to get back to it. There's also the fact that you got all these overlapping bars, and multiple ones are dojis. So this was not a good short at all, if this is what the other trader was talking about. And So needless to say, this was not a great place to be going short. And when that second entry short failed, that was just a short trap, and prices quickly took off to the upside. So I would have sat tight on this and probably saw that trap and gone long right there. And prices would have taken on off. You'd have been in good shape. So no, this was not a good short at all at this point. But I was long from down here, so I was not thinking short at that point really. And we're really struggling to go higher on this trade over here, so we'll go back to it. And this is turning out just to be possible congestion here as well. We may get a second leg down to come back to test this area right here. So but I'm still thinking we should get a retest of this high. But anytime prices start to congest like this, that's, that's not always a good sign. And if you wanted, you could tighten your stop below the signal bar. This was the signal bar below the entry bar, or even the next bar. I don't always recommend that, because a lot of times prices will pull back and make that one tick lower or something, and then just enough to trick everybody, and then they go exactly where you expect them to. So I generally like to try to stay below my original signal bar. I really like this now because we did break higher and we came back and we tested the upper side of the EMA and it held. So I'm really liking this trade now to at least scalp out of it. But another reason I like this is we had the trend line coming up here. This was the first real break of the trend line, and we know the rules tell us that we're not looking for a short after that. We're still looking for a long, for prices to come back and retest the previous high, and then we may get a correction of some type. So that was the main reason we're looking at this long. Was this was the first really big correction since 9 o'clock this morning. So and generally what these corrections do, they trap everybody. They scare out all the longs who think the trend's over, and they trap in a bunch of shorts, people that are fishing for tops, and then they suddenly reverse it and prices rocket off again. But this is a strong resistance area again from yesterday. As you can see, that was our double top from yesterday, and then we got through it in the overnight, but that was the overnight. So and here we go, we're getting close to our order here. Need a couple more ticks. We got some buying coming into the market now. You can see the ticks are really starting to. And I'll watch that. It doesn't always mean anything, but you can tell how fast the market's trading a lot of times by how quickly the ticks are and we see that close very bullish. Came off the EMA, closed on its very high. Now we're bouncing off our exit order. We need one more. There we go. So we're out of that, but we didn't get that extra tick yet, so it hasn't moved our stop to break even. But I'm going to go ahead and move it up to break even because I don't want it to come back and take away my profits. Because this has been very strong resistance. And we were really lucky to get out of that without prices ticking through. That doesn't happen very often. Generally when it does, that's a sign that prices are probably going to tick on through fairly quickly. But that's one of the advantages of using the strategies. That's one reason I like it, is because it's when your order is triggered here to go long, it instantly puts in your targets and your stops. So you get early in the queue, and just in case you're not aware, that is the way it determines which contracts are filled first. It's first in, first out. So the quicker your order's in line and in the queue, the quicker you can exit. And occasionally I do notice that by using that strategy, I can get a limit order filled without prices actually ticking through. And you see there's still a good bit, but you notice how the ticks are not flying by like they did earlier. So the buying is definitely slowed down. Not as many new people are eager to enter at the higher price here. But it's definitely slowed down from what we saw just a few moments ago. But we'll continue to we're only into this trade about 12 minutes, so we'll continue to let it go so I can show you how I would manage this. And I may be a little aggressive trying to go, and there's that final tick, and you see I had this set to go to break even +1 so that I won't give any money back. Actually make another tick off this last contract if prices were to turn down now at this high or make a double top here. But I may be a little aggressive with this. I'm going to bring this down and go for 2 points because I'm thinking we're only going to make a new high here since we had the trend line break. And there we go. We've got a double top in place now. We'll see if we can get 2 points out of this runner. There we go. We've got $100 in the bank. There we go. We got filled again. And so that was that. And so we basically made 2 points on the runner. So that was $100. And we made $100 on the scalp portion. So that was a quick $200 trade. And you see it took a few minutes for it to get going. But it's looking pretty bullish now. But again, the reasons I took this trade was we had this trend line, and that's the first real break of the trend line. And then we really had a couple of measured legs. We really had 2 legs down. Let me just show you that real quick. And we had this leg back, and then we had a pull back, and then we had this next leg. And you see that's 2 measured legs down. A lot of times I'd try to buy that blindly, but I was a little hesitant to buy that blindly simply for the fact that we never really tested this breakout right here very well. We tried to come back, and so I was thinking it was possible we might get a little more downside here. But once we got this nice little bullish type reversal ball right at the EMA after 2 measured legs right there, that made me feel pretty good about it made me feel pretty good about going long right there. And that's where most of just to discuss that, most of your best setups are going to be pullbacks to the EMA when the market's trending. Just like, look, coming down here, look what happened every time. There's one, there's one, there's one. Every time prices came back to the EMA, there's one. This is the only one that was not a real good setup coming back to the EMA, and that's generally going to be the one that's not very good, is the final one on the reversal. But you knew that because here's your trend line. You had your break, and then if you look, there's pretty much two measured legs. You got one leg right there, and then you got the other leg right there. So that's pretty much two measured legs down to a new low. But not only that, you've also got this strong support down here that was a double bottom from yesterday. So you know there's a lot of buying coming in there, and there's going to probably be a bounce there even if people don't buy it. And all they did was break prices lower, and they failed, and then off we go back to test the other side. And you see we're struggling here at this point on the other side. And my guess is we'll probably retest this high, but I don't know, because I think that's close enough to be a I think we got our trend line break here and our run to a new high, but sometimes you'll get two legs to a new high. So we may pull back and test this area again and then make one more leg up. But it's getting risky to go long in this area now. This is where you want to get long, and if you wanted to stay long, you'd been better off to tighten your stop, maybe a few more ticks, and then let this runner keep going. But I'm not going to get greedy like that. You can always find another entry. So I like to take my profit. That was an easy 4 points that we made right there. And you only need a couple of those every day to make good money. And what I try to tell people is that if $200 on a trade is not enough for you, rather than trying to take more trades, you just add more contracts. And you don't take on any more risk. You still wait on the right setups, and you just trade more contracts. And you've seen me trade 10 contracts, and sometimes somewhere between 5 and 10. And so rather than take a whole bunch of trades every day, I only look to take somewhere between 2 and 5 trades every day, and depending on how many contracts I'm trading, and generally that's dependent on how well I like the setup. If I'm not real sure about the setup, if it's not one that I really, really like, I'll just go in with a couple of contracts, 2 to 5. But if it's one of the setup that I really like, I'll jump in there with 10 contracts, and sometimes you only need, if you can trade 10 contracts and make 3 or 4 points, you only need a couple of those every day to make some really good money. So don't think you have to take more trades, and I think that's where most new people really make their mistakes, is they're trying to enter too often. They're continually looking for entries. And remember my rules that I try to teach you. Your best entries are going to be the key entry points, which is support, like right down here. Look what would have happened if you'd have entered down here this morning. You'd have had a chance to get all of that, or at the pullbacks to the EMA and the trend line. And if you'd have just used those, again, there was one down here at the support, which is a key entry. There was one off the EMA here. This is basically your first break of the trend line, so there's another one. Then once you have this trend line in place, there's one, and then here's the other one. And again, this was the first break, so we know prices are probably going to go higher. And you can see prices are still going higher, so if we'd have been a little more aggressive, we might have got more out of this. But that did end as a doji. Now we got a couple of overlapping bars. I really expect prices will pull back here. And if we're going to go higher, it'll be another leg that goes up. But just remember that your entries are at your best places to enter, and if you go by that rule alone, even if you were trading before the regular market opened, because this double top right here at the trend line was before the market opened, but let's assume that you started early. You wanted to start around 7 o'clock. So you've had 1, 2, 3. You probably wouldn't have had this trend line yet. 4, 5. You only had 5 setups from 7 o'clock this morning till 12 o'clock. It's about noontime now. So those were the only sure, really good key entry point setups. And so understand that you're not going to get a trade coming along every few minutes, and that's what most new traders do. They get caught up looking for all these entries, and your best entries are going to be with the trend during pullbacks to the EMA and the trend line, and at key support and resistance areas. Those are the only key entry points that you're going to find. And so keep that in mind and try to trade accordingly, and you will improve your trading immediately. Don't be counter trend trade. The only place you're going to counter trend trade is down here at these key support areas or key resistance areas up here. And even then, I don't recommend it, because look what happened if you counter trend traded up here. This one would have worked. If you bought this one blindly, you probably had enough room to scalp out. This one would have worked, but you had a trap here, a little double top with a trap, so that one was a little different. And it's a failed break above this little double top in this support or resistance area that goes all the way across here from yesterday. So those are a little different. If you're going to counter trend trade, that's where you want to do it. So, but don't be counter trend trading a trend like this in the middle. Until you get to, this would probably be the first place I would really consider counter trend trading. This trend right here is when you get up here. But anyway, we're over 20 minutes. This is probably going to serve as our chart lesson for today too. But hopefully you see how I manage a trade and what I'm looking for when I enter. And hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope you had a great trading week, and we'll see you next week. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.